You want some blueberries?
We're live.
Thank you. All right. Madam Chair, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Cool. So we did discuss your proposal with council, so the table is yours to
Okay.
discuss how we got here.
Sure, first off, apologies that I didn't have a chance to read the bill before it got to the floor, so I would have come earlier. But in the off session, I had heard from the regional planning commissions about what they were feeling was a insufficient amount of support from the Agency of Human Services for individuals who had been impacted by at this point in time, we were talking about floods, but natural disasters of any kind, I suppose. And they were looking for a particular study, and I wasn't so inclined to do a study, but when I saw the language in your bill, which really talked about the planning process for, any number of potential impacts from disasters, then it seemed like an omission to me to not have the Agency of Human Services be part of that process, in particular for the section around vulnerable adults, older Vermonters, et cetera. And so worked with Ledge Council to identify where's an appropriate spot to make sure that the Agency of Human Services is involved in this process for this group of people. And this is what we came up with. I presume it's not up there, but you've seen it. So that's really the basis for my proposed amendment.
All right.
Happy to answer any questions that people have.
Anything from the table? Yeah, I think I teed it up a little bit. Our back in the exchange on the floor kind of set the table. And then I think council's description of what it does made it clear for us. So
Okay.
yeah, we appreciate the addition.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for your attention to that. And I appreciate it. And so will Vermonters. Not so sure about the Agency of Human Services, but it's part of what they do anyway. But again, the regional planning folks really felt like insufficient attention being paid by AHS in certain aspects of disaster planning, and then not only the planning aspects, but then the response aspects. So appreciate the fact of this bill altogether. So thank you very much.
Oh, it looks like we got a hand from Rep. Hago.
Oh, I should have left while I had the chance.
Sorry, something you just said made me think of this. So no one has really talked to AHS about the addition of them.
I have not talked to the Agency of Human Services about
And
this.
the RPCs, as far as you know, did not. I mean, you had conversations.
Well, actually, the RPCs had been in conversation. There was one person assigned from the Agency of Human Services for the whole state when we were dealing with 2023 and 2024. And really, they were that they were exactly what you have put in the bill, that there would be more planning done in advance of a disaster about what are we supposed to do when this happens, as opposed to waiting till it happens and then only responding. So I doubt that they will have any issues with the advanced planning part. Yeah.
That reassures me. Thank you.
No, and I, we went back and reviewed a document yesterday, Rep. Hago, that you actually dug out of our testimony archives that cited this.
Yes.
And I do recall having a conversation with the representative from the agencies verbally when we were just teeing up the frame on this a while back. So yes, I feel like we're all thinking in the same direction here.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. And all right. Shifting gears to 244, we have an instance of amendment being proposed by Representative Galpetti. And I see she has just arrived, so please join us.
It's Ledge Council.
He was not going to be able to join us for this portion, but he's in there.
Okay.
Okay, Representative Jean Galfetti for the record. And I want to thank the committee for the work that they did on this bill. I think it is a really good step forward to bringing advertising dollars back to Vermont. My concern was that of those dollars, I feel like we should be directing, as the amendment outlines, advertising dollars to the smallest news media outlets. So that's why I put in the proposed $3 million cap in revenue for 40% of that money to be directed to those news media outlets that are smaller. So they get a seat at the table with the big guys. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, Representative Waters Evans, first handout.
Thank you for this. It's an interesting idea. How did you arrive at the 3 million?
I took a look at what the averages were for, most of the media outlets. And it seemed like the $3 million cap would direct it to about 70% of the smaller news media outlets.
Stick with Rep Waters Evans for the follow-up, and then we'll go
Thank you.
to.
Okay, and do you base it on the previous year's revenue or is it a
Yeah,
a combination of like a few years or?
no, I just based it on the previous year's revenues. I didn't have time to do a deeper dive, as Chair Emmons would say.
Rep Nugent.
I was just wondering if you were able to talk to the administration at all about their thoughts on the Starlink.
I haven't interfaced with the administration. I have talked to members of the Senate and they were interested in the idea. They're not sure where the $3 million cap fits in exactly. And, neither am I 100%. As I didn't get like an aggregate number of years leading up to this following year for where that lies. But I was just hoping it could get the conversation going that we need to be paying attention to the smallest news media outlets because they really need it the most in this state.
So. Yes.
So. I mean, obviously, I'm one of the co-sponsors of the bill.
Sure.
But so the question I have for you is like, when we were creating it, we were really trying to bridge the gap between putting too many restrictions on the way people spend, the way that departments and agencies spend their money,
Sure.
and making sure that we meet our objective of putting this money toward local media outlets, right?
Right.
And what do you think about adding this like extra layer of restriction on these departments and their workload and
Yeah,
making it a little more complicated?
I certainly see your point as to, it complicates things for media or services at Vermont departments to where the advertising dollars can go. But I think one of the big holes in the legislation was that if you're using a Vermont advertising agency, the dollars can still go out the door to out-of-state suppliers. So I felt like this was a way to direct it back into the smaller pockets. So they're not just using that as a loophole to advertise out of state.
Thank you.
Rep Coffin.
Just this is more of a curiosity because you said you were looking at the media outlets.
Yes.
Approximately how many of those fall under that $3 million? Do you,
Yeah, like about 70%.
that would be in a number of?
Oh,
I was
gosh.
looking for the number of,
I don't have a comprehensive list with me.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be able to give you that information, but I could get back to you with it.
all right, I was just curious because
Sure.
that would show a lot of 70%, but how many is to?
Yeah,
7 out of 10, or
like
is it-
like I said, the list is not exhaustive.
Mhm.
You know, this amendment was generated within a relatively short amount of time. So there's a potential that there's smaller outlets that I may have missed.
Mhm.
You know, because what qualifies as a news media outlet, which ones actually have advertising, to what degree,
Mhm.
you know, that's present is a bigger question.
Okay, no, I was trying to figure out like the number that it would help.
Yeah.
Rep Hoover, Burlington.
So I have this nagging sort of thing in the back of my mind that somebody said yesterday about where you have to go to reach certain cadre of age groups.
Right.
And particularly with the example that was used, get a measles shot or whatever. You're gonna be looking at maybe younger generation people. And with that becomes production costs, because a lot of the small places either don't have the ability to produce video. Maybe even production costs in terms of print. As you go up the scale, you get more elaborate and hypothetically impressive.
Each.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, that setting this limit without taking the whole gambit of what can be done or what should be done. Just causes a hair on back.
Sure.
And we might be basically defeating our purpose by not allowing ourselves to reach outlets that would be effective, most effective with dollars.
Right, and that's why I didn't want to make it too prescriptive and put it at the 40% mark.
So, I mean, I'm going over this, right? And we all know that we've had discussions with our colleagues in Senate. There's going to be a lot of continuing on this. I think that there's looking at what this suggests for us to appropriately digest it, understand it, would require
I think it needs
testimony.
testimony.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So my thoughts right now are like, I think there's merit to the conversation,
Yep.
but helping guide that conversation with our colleagues in the Senate when they take this up for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm totally open to that. I just wanted to make sure this got earmarked as something that, did get overlooked when, we're putting legislation like this forward.
Yes, I completely hear you, Representative Coffin.
This is a comment, not a question.
Sure.
I had voted no on this in committee on that because there wasn't enough information in it. There wasn't any more guidance to our counterparts in the Senate. We left a lot open. This would give them a little more framework to work with to help the local news media, because I do like the premise of the bill. I like the idea of it. I just didn't like that we didn't have enough information to give or any more guidance, that we were sending out something incomplete. If this helps them to give them something else to consider, I'm more for the bill.
Yep, understood. Yep.
Or just reading it, and if the intention is to help our smaller local news medias, this gives them a framework to work with. Whether they do or don't is on them, but I'd feel better including something more in guidance for them to start working with instead of giving them a blank slate.
I think what I'm suggesting, and I'm just gonna like push it out as like just a raw suggestion, is actually to use this because I think that the content of this proposal needs some testimony. And the bill's on the floor today. So carrying these words over to the Senate separate as suggested language over there is what I'm leaning towards right now, just due to clock. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, Representative Larson.
Thank you. I just would like to add that they are, I believe they've already started hearing testimony on this over there and they've been discussing it and they're really open to figuring it out.
Yeah, it sure seemed like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so this is a great idea. I think just as far as the amendment itself is concerned. I personally don't think it's a great idea for today, but I think it's a great idea as part of the larger conversation.
Sure.
And I really appreciate you bringing it to us. It's a great thought.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
So given the feedback, honestly,
Yeah.
I would be happy to withdraw this on the floor after I make a brief statement.
you just pulled the words right out of my suggestion.
Wow.
So, here we go.
All right, I like to be brief and to the point. No,
No,
thank you all. Thank you, committee. Thank you, Chair.
Got it.
I hope that goes towards that.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see.
All right, so committee, that was the one piece on 244. So I wanted to circle back to the three instances of amendment that we have for 397 and go through them one by one because we do have to take a position on these drop hole style. So let me get a fresh piece of paper. But so one by one, we'll go in order with the Kornheiser and the Kornheiser amendment around adjusting the pilot rates percentages up from 70-30 to 75-25 and making this uniform. I mean, it all seems logical to line those things up. I mean, we did do it for everybody else, right? Thumbs favorable? Yeah, it looks like 11 thumbs. Awesome. All right, this is so official. I'm going Post-it note.
Do you want to release paper or don't?
I will transfer it over. Yeah,
Not that
you
they're
know
not
me, I like to make my life unnecessarily complicated. All right, so that is an 11-0-0. Byron amendment.
This is so complicated.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Silly me, making sure it doesn't fall out of the green books. All right. And lastly, the Wood Amendment.
Are we getting a different version of this?
We are gonna get a different version of this, but I wanted to just get a sense of the committee right now before we went up to the.
About the concept.
About the concept, yes.
When did we go? Can I ask when we went from elderly people to Vermonters?
A while
A
ago.
long time ago,
Yeah.
yes. That's why it's called the Older Vermonters Caucus.
It's crazy.
What is actually the age break off when you're considered an older?
Hey, not my committee, man, not my committee. I'm just here making sure the words make sense to people in the green books.
That's what they consider older.
Thumbs up.
All right, let's bring this in, guys. Let's wrap this up. We can talk about this stuff offline. 11 thumbs, yes. Now there is a Parsons amendment that will be floating around, so please keep an eye on your text messages and your inboxes because I believe we are going to have to take a position on that one as well. That is the 397.
Oh, being younger.
But in this moment in time, you guys are awesome. We are dialing these things in and we are gonna get this product out the door, moving and set up and done. It's been a hell of a couple of weeks. Good job, everyone. Autumn, lunch break, take us off.